Going. Great. Hello and welcome to another webinar for Country Change. I'm really excited to be joined this morning by the Greater Hume Mayor Councillor Heather Wilton. Thank you so much for joining us. I think a lot of people really get a lot of value out of these webinars because we get to chat to locals and get a really lovely insight as to the Shire that we're introducing. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a very exciting time.
I'll look at it. I think there's a lot going in the world that people are excited about at the moment, with everything opening up again.
That's right. Couldn't be more better timed, really.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are now really interested in moving to the country and getting that tree change because of everything that's happened. I think it's a lot of perspective is being put onto people's lives. So tell me a little bit about the Greater Hume in terms of where you're located in New South Wales and I guess the opportunities that you have on your doorstep in terms of access.
Well, Greater Hume Shire is located in southern New South Wales in part of the Riverina, and we are located between Albury, which is on the River Murray to the south of us, and between there and Wagga Wagga, which is our northern neighbour, and it's sort of located halfway or midway into the Riverina itself. But we're close to the Murray River, which is the biggest and best known river, I guess, in New South Wales, if not Australia, and probably the world, really. We feel we're the centre of the universe here, and those of us who live here love living here. And most of us are country people, I guess, who've been born and bred country, maybe educated in the cities, maybe not, maybe just local. And a lot of people might go away for educational reasons and then they come back here into Greater Hume and continue their lives here in their chosen profession, which is something that they can do very easily here in southern New South Wales and Greater Hume.
So just from a perspective, for someone who hasn't been to the Riverina before, just explain where you're situated in terms of how many hours from Sydney, Albury, Wagga and Melbourne are you?
Well, if we need to go to Albury, we are, well, depending, the southern part of our shire is very close to Albury. It's just basically on the northern outskirts of Albury. But if we're going from, say, the centre of the shire to Albury, we're about 60 kilometres, 40 minutes by road, very easy travelling. If you're in Holbrook, down the Hume Highway, so it's very easy drive. Then to go to Melbourne, we're about 4 hours from Melbourne, from the centre of the shire. If we're going to Wagga from the centre of the shire is about 80 kilometres. Doesn't take long, about just on an hour, and not quite the same sort of road, but nevertheless still a very good road to get there. And then we're about 6 hours from Sydney, in a reasonable drive with a stop.
Yeah. Oh, look, and I think I grew up in regional areas, and I always laugh when people in cities get caught up with the amount of kilometres. Kilometres don't matter so much in the country. It's how long it'll take you there and what the quality is.
Yes.
So, you know, it's nothing to go down to Melbourne for a weekend when you live in.
Nothing to go to Melbourne for actually a day if you really need to, for a reason. Yeah. Specialist appointment or go to the football. It's a bit different going to Sydney. You could go overnight easily.
And look, you do have your airports at Albury and Wagga as well.
Yes, very well. We've had very good services located getting out of Albury, north, down and south, both Sydney and Melbourne. And the same with Wagga Wagga, and several different choices of airlines. And I guess once things settle down, that will all come back to pass and we'll be back in business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people are looking forward to that. So you've got fantastic road and air access to some of these city areas. And I know tree changers or country changers who've relocated to the Greater Hume, many of them actually still had jobs in Sydney or Melbourne and would just go back every other week and that was a really easy commute. Are you finding that a lot of people, when they relocate here or to the Greater Hume, that they do have that experience where they can still work for their city offices but be based there?
Yes, absolutely. Many, many do. Either they've been located here and they manage to secure a job in the city, so that can still happen with the magic of new technology that we all are becoming used to. But also people locate and relocate here from the city and they maintain the position in a particular business or a profession that they have in further afield, Melbourne, Sydney or wherever. And they are more than happy to live the rural lifestyle. And I think that's part of the reason why they don't actually live in the cities. They want, and their children and their families want to be rural living, and that becomes a priority for them. And the jobs that they can do, in the main, they can do with the terrific technology that's available to us.
And so if we're talking about the Riverina, one thing I love about the region is it's so diverse. Every shire is so different. How would you describe the Greater Hume Shire compared to, say, other nearby towns, whether it be Griffith, which is obviously a larger town, compared to places like the Snowy Valleys? What do you think the Greater Hume's point of difference is compared to other regions in the Riverina?
Yeah, look, we've got 5 main towns in our council area. We have about 12 or 15 smaller towns and locations where people live, and people live in our main towns generally. And they have, the real estate is, just easy buying really for most people. And there is opportunities for that. But if you want a more rural lifestyle, you can go and live in our smaller localities. It's more rural, perhaps less opportunities for the things that we want to have in our main lives, like post offices or a coffee. But if people want to live out in those smaller towns, they can have horses and cattle and chickens and all of those sorts of things that a lot of people are looking at trying to get themselves involved in and get their children involved. All of our towns, our major towns, have a couple of choices of private and public education for children. We have a private boarding school in one of our major towns, so quite a few people travel to that school each day. Others go to the public high school, which is Culcairn, and then others travel further afield, mainly to the south into Albury, where there are more schools and more opportunities if that's what you're looking for. But from an educational point of view, I think we're pretty well served. As well as that, we've got 2 universities in Albury, Wodonga, to the south of us, and one in Wagga. So, from the higher education point of view, I think we're well served. We can still live in a rural area, but we can still avail ourselves of the opportunities for education.
So it really suits anyone who's looking. They can live in town, they can have a little urban block, or they can have their little hobby farm, or if they're really going to throw themselves in, go the large farming agricultural space.
Yeah, absolutely.
That if you've never done it, by the way. And then obviously having those access points to the major cities and major towns of the Riverina. So you've covered the schooling. What about employment? What is it like if someone, obviously there's careers in agriculture, it's a big agricultural community. What other employment opportunities are in the Greater Hume?
Well, look, from a health point of view, we've got 3 hospitals in 3 towns. So there is an opportunity for getting involved in the health services. We've got aged care services attached to each of our health facilities. So we've got emergency, subacute and aged care in 3 of those health service areas in Holbrook, Culcairn and Henty. So from a health point of view, if you're a nurse or you're a GP, plenty of opportunities there, and there are always opportunities actually. And we're really, at the moment, we're really looking for more GPs with the possibility or the view to becoming a visiting medical officer. So that's one thing that is always available. We're always looking for that sort of thing. Teaching with the schools, a lot of the industries and the businesses in our major towns are service industries for our rural areas. So they might be engineering works, they might be, people who sell fodder or hay. At the moment, we've got a lot of logging going on in one of our towns, which has happened because of the fires. So mechanical sort of things. So, people are wanting fencing, and look, really the range is unlimited, and really it is only limited by your imagination. So there are plenty of opportunities for anybody to do nearly anything. Because of our location mainly on the Hume Highway, and then on the Olympic Way with some of our other towns, we've got a lot of people who are employed in the industry of providing a great coffee and some great cafes and some very nice boutique shopping opportunities. So I think it's limited to really, as I said, by your imagination. There is plenty to do and plenty of jobs, and you need to get onto the jobs website and just have a look at what's around.
Yeah. In terms of opportunities, I mean, people can always start their own businesses, but with any business, you should do your due diligence. Are there any particular areas or sectors that you feel could be a nice little startup opportunity that you're really seeking people to come into the community?
Well, see, once again, that's about your imagination, I think. We've had quite a few small boutique buying homewares opportunities that have started of later times. I think there's always more space for restaurants or for cafes. I think, hairdressing, medical services, like if you're an OT or a physiotherapist, it's limited, not really by anything much. It's just, if that is your profession, you can come and talk to us, and we can see if there's a spot that we can, in which we can place you and your family. And, there's plenty of opportunities.
So in terms of that, if someone was interested in relocating, we always suggest getting in touch with our country change team, in which we obviously then match them up with the correct shire. But if they're really interested in Greater Hume, is the council active in helping have these conversations with people and really assessing what their needs are and making suggestions based on their needs? Is that something that council's more than welcoming to do?
Oh, without a doubt. If somebody presents on our doorstep or at our office, we would willingly talk to people about what's available. If they're looking for land, we have a look to see what we've got available, small or large pieces, shops availability, workshops. It just is, we're very welcoming, and we look at anybody who comes in with an idea. Even an idea. We had some interesting ideas happen recently. We couldn't quite accommodate it. I think he was probably a bit ahead of his time, but with what he wanted to do. But we met him several times over. But look, there are plenty of things happening. We've got some very good sites in most of our towns that are industrial, more commercial and industrial areas. We still have some properties available for purchase. And I don't know, I might even just talk about the one interesting one, and that's the cryogenic facility which is being developed here in Holbrook. So I think that's a very interesting one that is the first, I think, in the Southern Hemisphere, and they just happened to choose Holbrook as the location where they wanted to develop that business opportunity.
I think people are surprised when they hear about the types of businesses and the scale of businesses that are in the Riverina, because I think if you've only ever lived in a city region, you just assume the world revolves around the cities. But living and working in the Riverina, from the living perspective, I think people realise it's a given that you'll save money on things like rental mortgages and travelling. But there are those commercial viable projects. In the recent article, we interviewed a couple who moved and bought a nursery, and they had corporate jobs, and then they moved into this space. And there's so many opportunities, as you say, with imagination, but the commercial viability with your due diligence can open up a whole new kind of world for people that they hadn't thought of. Like the cryogenics, it'll be a massive project, and it sounds wonderful.
Well, if it takes off like they're hoping and anticipating, it'll be a very interesting business to be developed in our shire. But the people at J Fields, they've come into our community. They're great contributors to our community. They employ a lot of people, full-time, part-time, casual, and they've developed the nursery tremendously. So, that's an opportunity that was out there waiting for somebody to come along and take it up. It had already begun by somebody else, started by somebody else, and they took it on, and they've taken it on with great gusto, and they're doing a really great job. And as I said, they're employing people. There's another employment opportunity, and I think they're fully occupied with their business more than most. But there are lots of vet opportunities. We've got quite a lot of vets who live here because they look after the rural areas, the farming areas. It's very. We've got a new grain terminal, which has recently been developed at Henty, and we're just realigning the highway and the railway line to accommodate the better transport and of activities or movements from the highway into the grain terminal. So, that's something that's going on. That can employ contractors. If people have got businesses that are contractors, earth movers, those sort of people, they're all out there too. So, look, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit.
So in terms of real estate, we'll go back to residential. Can you give us some guide prices as to what people would be looking at in the region?
Yes, look, in our major towns, we've got, which are Henty, Culcairn, Holbrook, Walla and Gindera. The prices are varied. They're sort of about, say, 230,000 up to about 350,000. So the Gindera, which is close to Albury, has the higher price level of real estate, housing opportunities. The other 4 towns are to a lesser degree. They're further away from the major towns, but there's quite a big range of prices, but that would be sort of around about the median price in those particular areas. And there is always something for sale to suit somebody's price range. And we have nearly 50% of the people who live in our shire actually own their own home outright. So that's a pretty good percentage, I think.
That's huge.
Anybody who's interested. And look, that would be across the range. So I think that's great. Yes.
Absolutely. So in terms of, I think one of the greatest misconceptions is that there's nothing to do in country areas. Tell me about your shire. What are some of the more popular community social events that people can become involved with?
Well, look, sport is one of the big things. And if you're a sports person, football, AFL, pardon?
The code AFL.
Oh, yes. Most of our towns have got junior sport opportunities, cricket, tennis, swimming. We've got some fabulous new swimming pools. And look, once again, we've got nearly every sport that you could name, perhaps not indoor, more outdoor sort of things. We've got a very good gymnasium in Holbrook, which has about 300 members, and they've got so much to do in that space. And so many people who want that space, they're sort of jammed up with business. But look, there is plenty to do in the sporting field. We have annual horse races in Holbrook. A lot of people love that, and that's quite a draw card. It's an annual picnic race event, effectively. That's a great draw card. We have agricultural shows. The Henty Field Days, they are worldwide renowned. So they draw, 50 or 60,000 people for their 3-day event. So there are, a lot of horse activities. a lot of horse activities. Of course, living in a rural area, the horses are all stabled sort of just around our main town, so, or further afield, but there is a lot of opportunity for all of the ranges of the equestrian events you'd like to think about.
Awesome, fantastic. So I think it sounds really like there's something for everyone. And I mean, at the end of the day, you do need to do your research and figure out what kind of advice would you offer someone if they are seriously considering a country change and they might be looking at the Riverina, they might be looking at a number of different towns. What would you say to someone who is interested in that tree change? Any words of sage advice there?
Yes, look, my first reaction to somebody would be to come down and visit our shire. We've got the main streets in our towns are looking particularly good. We spend a lot of time in making sure they're very appealing. So I think, you know, you'd need to be able to go into a town and say, oh, I like the feel of this town. And if you like the feel of the town from your first impressions, well, I think you're sort of half hooked almost. So go on to the websites, go on to council's websites, look at your real estate opportunities, your job opportunities, talk to Country Change, come down and visit us and have a drive around, stay here, talk to a few of the locals, visit the cafe, go to the pub for dinner, you know, participate. Try and come down when there is something happening so that you can see that there is activity in the area. But that's what I'd be encouraging people to do. And yeah, come and have a look. Try before you buy. I think that's one of the key things.
Yeah, and I think in the recent article we did with the Greater Hume, from memory, the one of the ladies said, look, if you don't like it, you can always just leave and sell if you don't like it. But the chances are that you...
Well, we hope that doesn't happen.
Well, the thing is, if you do your research and you like to visit, spend some time there, talk to the locals, you're going to make a decision with confidence.
Yes. Yes. Look, I and my family, we lived about 200 kilometres west of here. We're farming people. We had irrigation. We're over irrigation, and we wanted to relocate. We sold our property, and it was sort of a choice between Greater Hume and another shire into Victoria where we would relocate to. And we decided to come here to relocate our family business. And it's worked very well for us. We're very happy here.
Now you're the man.
Yes. Well, that was something I didn't expect. Although I did come from a local government background where I was previously living, and I really didn't expect this to happen. So, you know, it did, and here we are today, 26 years later.
And you obviously care and love the region to be able to take you on that.
Oh, yeah. Look, it's a really great area in which to live. One member of our family lives here in the same shire as us, with their family and their children, and we've got two daughters who live at Albury and Wodonga, and the other members of the family live away. But it's a great area in which to live, and the you know, it's from all sorts of purposes and all sorts of reasons. You know, the educational opportunities for grandchildren are great, and we've got great you know, transport, public transport, air services, trains, roads. So, you know, and if you're driving through Greater Hume, you're driving through really the middle of prime part of New South Wales. We think it is anyway.
Well, I think you've given it an amazing plug, and anyone interested in visiting the Greater Hume or speaking to council, you can contact us through the Country Change page, countrychange.com.au. As Councillor Wilton said, go to the council website, do your research, and reach out to our team, and we can connect you with the right people based on your circumstances and needs. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure other people have really enjoyed listening to this as well. So thank you.
Yes. Well, anybody can get in touch with me, and I'll give them a personal tour around the shire.
There you go. You can't be a personal walk around with the man.
Happy to do so.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.